watch a lot of these like shitty gay movies. I think like TSA is like the company that like releases all these like really bad
90s indie shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever see Latter Days about like? It was basically Cruel Intention, but with like a Mormon missionary who was secretly gay, and then like the super slutty like club boy who like.
I can imagine it already. I can see it.
There's Jagor in it as like one of the missionaries.
Really?
Yeah, he's in it for like 2 minutes or something. But...
I would. That is probably a movie I would have seen as like the trailer for it on some other shitty movie that I've rented, and was like, oh man, I've got to see that.
But because like I watched it, I'm like, this is just Cruel Intentions with gay people. Like that. Like when watching Bad Education, I was like, I don't think you could make this with like straight. Like a straight storyline out of it.
No.
Like I mean, you could, but it wouldn't have the same like feel or flow or anything to it. So
yeah,
that kind of stuck out as like this kind of has to be about like gay people.
Sure.
And that's always just kind of stuck with me that like it has to be that way. Like,
yeah. Do you ever think about it the other way? Like if it's a straight romance or something, do you ever think like, oh, could this be made with gay people?
Yeah, and usually it's yes.
Yeah. Because it doesn't matter, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, there is sort of...
We've had to insert ourselves into that narrative every time anyway.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, most of, like, straight ones, like, gender doesn't play too much of a role unless it's just, like, a woman being, like, traditionally, like, submissive and, like, the man is seducing her. Like,
yeah.
There's sort of traditional gender roles in that, but... Yeah.
And sometimes they get flipped, but that's...
And that's when it gets kooky.
Yeah.
So... But...
Valerie's mannish. Kurt's effeminate.
I would love to watch
Put
that.
them together.
Have you ever thought of a career of redubbing rom-com trailers? Just... Like, you don't even have to, like, change the wording. You can just do it in that voice.
Yeah, maybe. Why not?
And then, I think if you release them just with that voice, people will think that it's, like, a farce or, like, a spoof of a rom-com.
Yeah. Did you ever watch... I always think of that episode of South Park where they keep making fun of Rob Schneider.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Rob Schneider is the stapler.
Well, it wasn't the last one. It was just like, Rob Schneider, derp to derp, derp. Yeah.
What's he been up to?
Ooh, I don't really...
Actually, no. No one answer that.
I like how we're recording this. This is our first podcast after Debbie Reynolds has passed away.
That's right.
And we're watching a movie called Mother, but not the movie called Mother that she's in.
Yeah, good point.
So...
Huh. Sorry, Debbie.
And for the record, in case this comes out so far removed from that time, it's sort of bonkers that Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds died within like 36 hours of one another.
I keep reading the thing, and it's total clickbait, so I haven't done it, but it's like, son of Debbie Reynolds said that her dying words were, I just want to be with Carrie. Just like, I don't know, maybe, but still, oh man.
See, I feel like, you know, if there's like a heaven scenario, I feel like they met in heaven, hugged, and then Carrie Fisher accused Debbie Reynolds of being a scene-stealing bitch. And then they hugged again. Like, that's...
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
This whole, like, the memoriam stuff for those two made me realize that I've never seen Singing in the Rain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's like...
I have... A lot of people with musicals, they complain, like, oh, why do these people suddenly break out into song? And, like, blah, blah, blah. That's not my problem. I'm like, there's not enough songs in these. Because, like...
Too much talking.
A lot of those, like, classic, like, MGM musicals are pretty long. Like, 2.5 hours. And, like, when they're not singing or dancing, like, I just don't care about the movie.
Yeah.
So
the talking's just to get to the next musical.
Yeah. I fear, though, like, I haven't seen Les Mis, but that's, like... What was the review of it? It's 20 years filmed in real time. And that's one where, like, there is no talking. It's like...
Yeah, I didn't make it all the way through.
I've never seen it. Like, that's...
First of all, that musical really dies down after the first act.
Okay.
It really starts to just be a slog.
Okay.
And I forgot that until I started watching the movie. I turned it off. I couldn't even do it. And I don't, I'm a bitter ender.
Yeah.
I finished stuff, and I couldn't. Because it was just like, I forgot how boring this musical gets, and this movie is not doing it any favors.
Yeah.
So, bye.
Do they dance? Are there, like, choreographed numbers?
Kinda, yeah. It's really awkward, honestly.
I mean, that's one of the benefits of, like, those old MGM musicals is, like, they're not all singing, they're not all dancing. It's like you got one and then you go into the other, and, usually the people back then were pretty good at both.
Yeah.
So.
I do feel that Anne Hathaway's song, the number, whatever, is really good. It's you can turn it off after that.
Better or worse than Susan Boyle's rendition? Did I ever tell you about my idea for a reality show with Susan Boyle?
No, go for it.
So this was, remember, like, Shot at Love with, like, Tila Tequila?
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, Rock of Love with what's-his-face from Motley Crue?
Uh-huh.
So, like, after, like, Susan Boyle, like, made it big and released her first album, like, she said that, like, her goal, like, her new goal was to, like, find a husband.
Uh-huh.
So I thought that they should have a reality show. Sort of a Bachelor-style reality show with Susan Boyle, and call it Boyle of Love.
Can we combine it with, like, an America's Got Talent situation where she's the judge, but then she also gets to go on a date with them?
She gives them some wilted tulip to make it to the next round.
It's brown, with petals falling off. This is for you! Your sword-swallowing act was thrilling. I'd love to go to dinner with you.
But the dinner is still a talent show.
Yeah.
So he has to do his sword-swallowing act.
That's the twist. Wow, we should be reality show producers. This is going to be awesome.
You can narrate every episode commercial.
Susan Boyle is a lonely songstress. Yeah, I can see this. Copyright X-rated movie, 2017. Called it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you better watch out. We're not litigious yet, but just give us a reason.
Okay, we have to do the intro because
yeah.
I keep forgetting to do it.
Well, you have the record scratch sound effect, so we can always just make up for lost time. I'm Matt Fisher.
I'm Ryan Whedon.
And this is X-Rated. Okay. A movie podcast by two guys who dated for 3 weeks 10 years ago. And now we chew the fat on film. So, chew the celluloid.
Celluloid, that's what I was thinking too.
A little gamey.
Need some seasoning.
So would you like to introduce this week's film?
I would. Before I get into it, though, I would like to make 2 disclaimers to the analysis portion today.
Okay.
Number 1, I don't speak Korean.
Okay, yeah.
And if I totally butcher a name, I apologize ahead of time. It's probably going to happen. And I'm going to try and avoid names as much as possible so I don't butcher them.
Sure.
But anyway, apologies for people who do speak Korean. I'm not trying to be offensive if I fuck it up. Second, this movie is, it goes without saying that the analysis part is, like, spoiler-laden.
Yeah, I was thinking that, too.
This movie is all about reveals, I feel like, as you move through it. So, if you haven't seen it, and you don't want to be, and you want to enjoy it fresh, in your mind, just stop now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to have that spoiler horn ready.
Yeah. Because
I don't know how to talk about this movie.
We're not going to be able to.
Yeah. At least a little bit.
This whole analysis section is going to be a spoiler alert for this movie. But so just a heads up, because it is, I feel like part of the joy of this movie is like the unfolding of it.
Yeah. So this is my second time seeing it. I don't know how many times you've seen it.
This is my third.
Okay. I think I liked it better this time, knowing the mystery or knowing how it ends.
Yeah.
Because I think it lets me focus on the development of the characters. Like, I think before it was just like I was just trying to keep track of what was happening.
Keep up, yeah.
And watching it this time, I kind of see like the evolution of the mother a little more clearly.
Who doesn't have a name, by the way. Did you notice
okay.
that? She's just Mother.
Okay. Well, that's good.
I noticed that. This is third time, and this is the first time I noticed that, so...
What was I going to say? The biggest thing that I noticed this time around is... So when I watched this initially, it was... I don't know, 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
Shortly after it was released. I didn't see it in theaters, but... and I remember, like, the son being sort of a doofus.
Yeah.
But, like, watching this time, I'm like, this son's, like, a shitbag. Like, this is some...
He's got some problems.
This is some grade A douchebaggery here. I need to stop saying, it's a comfort word.
Oh, sorry. I try to edit them out anyway.
Okay.
But now that you've said that, I'm going to add extras.
Yeah, I just... His douchebaggery was, like, really prominent to me this time around, and it wasn't as before when I first watched it. I just thought he was sort of slow and dim-witted, or a mama's boy, which he still is.
He's all those things, yeah.
But this time around, I'm like, he is really just kind of willfully a shitbag.
Yeah.
Like, he
kind of assumes that defiant teenager role a little bit.
And he seems perfectly happy to just, like, wallow in his own idiocy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even after he's arrested, even once he's, like, captured... Or not captured, but yeah, once he's, like, arrested and in jail.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem that intent on bettering his situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just gonna let his mom do all the work. You know, he signs a confession. He's just like, I don't know, they put it in front of me, I just signed it.
Yeah. I think they addressed that a little bit in where he's like, there's a point where she says something like, you're such a good boy, and he's like, I can be a bad boy, too. And so I think, like, he sort of latches on to that feeling of, like, I'm defiant, I'm an adult, and then just sort of kind of goes with that feeling, because I think that he can't remember very well, because he was fed poison. And it almost speaks to the main theme of this movie, I think, more so, is that, like, he's a boy that only a mother could love, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because he's not very likable.
He's not very likable.
And she does all these things for him, basically.
The beginning of the movie, like, the very beginning of, like, her dancing out in the field, and, like, watching it this time, I'm like, you know you got an art film when it starts out with old lady dancing out in an empty field.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is, we got art coming up.
Settle in.
So, but beyond that, like, the first scene that, you know, takes place, like, within the story proper, she's cutting something.
I was going to talk about this scene, too.
And there's a nice little layer. It's like, there's sort of the word that she's going to chop her finger because she's not paying attention to what she's chopping.
Right.
And then the son is, like, playing with the dog out in the street, and I didn't quite remember everything that happened in this first scene, so I was like, oh god, did she chop her finger? Oh god, does that dog get hit? Oh god, does he get hit? So, like, I couldn't remember, but I, like, had all these, like, things, like, welling up. And then, like, the first scene happens, I'm like, okay, I was kind of right.
Well, I love that about this movie, is that, like, that he ratchets up the tension, like, immediately, right? It's just like, and there's nothing happening besides, like, her watching him and not watching as she's cutting. And so you get, like, really stressed out. And then, when he does get hit and she goes running after him, and there's, like, blood, she's like, oh, you're bleeding. And then it turns out that she's bleeding. I think that sets up the whole idea of the movie, which is that, you know, uncertainty. Basically, it's like, who's bleeding? We don't know. We don't know the story.
That's
like
true.
right off the bat.
There's a point when she's dancing, and part of me thinks that I'm, like, digging into something that was just randomly put there by chance. But there's a part when she's dancing at the very beginning where she covers her eyes and she smiles.
Yeah.
And then as she takes her hand away, she, like, goes to, like, sadness or grief.
Right.
And to me, like, I think that's sort of telling the audience that, like, she was willfully blind about some things.
Right.
And that she was sort of happier, like, pretending not to know.
Yeah. I don't think you're digging in too far at all, because this director, Bong Joon-ho, which I haven't said his name yet, I noticed it especially this time around, is that, like, every shot is composed and intentional. So it's like, I feel like every little detail in his movies is intentional. So something like that is absolutely valid, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of the times, like, I feel people look into these little details in movies and, like, it explains the whole film. And usually I just think that that's, like, borderline conspiracy theory. But in this one instance, I was like, I kind of feel like...
And he's setting that up. It's like, he's just telling you from the start that, like, when she's got her eyes closed, or, like, when she's forgetting, which is also a big theme of this movie, forgetting, remembering. Definitely. Like, she's got her eyes closed to something, she can be happy, but if she takes her eyes or her hand away and sees again, you know, she's obviously
that's
sad.
True. Yeah, memory does play a big role, because, like, not only does the son forget, but, like, she keeps touting that, like, acupuncture method,
right?
Getting, like, the meridian in your thigh,
right? Which makes me wonder if she has done it on him to make him forget that incident, and also herself, to, like, forget the, like, suicide murder situation that she almost did to her son.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
It's true.
There's a lot of we don't know as you go through this movie, which is, I think, what is one of the things that is kind of exciting about it. Yeah,
the director really kind of keeps us at arm's length away from the mother. Like, we know her wants, like, we know her desires, and we can see how she's, like, going about getting what she wants and, like, what's stopping her, but we really don't know what's going on in her head for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, we know her, like, base instincts and, like, her main driving motives, but...
That of a mother.
Yes.
Wanting to help her son.
Yes. But that's sort of where it stops. Like, we don't know the complex thinking. We don't necessarily know, is she kind, is she giving, is she gentle, is she blah, 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 blah.
Right.
You know? And, yeah, we're sort of kept at arm's length. And I think it's because of that. Like, we're not supposed to know what she's capable of, in a way. I mean, we get a hint, like, halfway into the movie when it's revealed that, like, when times were tough, she tried to kill herself and her son.
Right.
But that's sort of, like, the first... And we get a little bit of other things, like she's willing to, like, break into the one guy's house when she was looking for the golf club.
Yeah.
Did
you know she took off her shoes in that scene?
Yes. So I didn't notice it, but I was watching it with someone, and he said, he's like, don't they notice the stray pair of shoes in the house? And right as he said that, it doesn't pan, but it cuts to her feet.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the two had just had sex and were, like, falling asleep. And it cuts to her feet, sort of like
curled
with her,
up.
Yeah. Yeah, her shoeless feet.
Yeah.
And yeah, if there's ever a director that could make spilt water look tense, it would be in that scene.
There you go, yeah.
But, so yeah, that's like the first thing, is that, like, she's willing to, like, you know, break into someone's home to try and help her son. And then, like, once she starts, like, going into, like, back alleys and, like, finding shady characters.
Right.
Who might be able to shed some light. It's like we get another glimpse that, like, she doesn't have a problem going into these seedy underbelly worlds.
But you're right. It's something I didn't think about until now. But you don't really get a feel for her, other than, like, a mother who loves her son so much that she'll do anything to get him out of this scrape, which is, like, all she ever does, apparently, seemingly. And it's interesting because I watched a thing that talked about how she's filmed.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of times in profile or obscured by, like, a glass pane, or, like, there's, like, some just things in front of her face a lot of times. And I think that also serves to kind of make you feel uneasy about her.
Or distant, like,
yeah,
there's a barrier between, or you're not getting the whole...
Yeah. There was a couple times... Another technique I noticed was that he would film her in profile, and then she'd turn her face really fast, and you'd see the other one, like, in the camera. So you'd see a glimpse of it, but then she'd look away. Or she'd turn around, and you'd get the back of her head.
And I mean, that sort of plays into, like... Because usually, when you're trying to connect with a character, it's like, you're supposed to, like, look into their faces. You know, like, Jonathan Demme always does, like, close-ups of people's faces, and it, like, lets you sympathize with, you know, Clarice Starling or Hannibal Lecter and stuff like that. Like, it kind of, like, gives you, like, you know, you get a good, clear picture of the eyes and the facial expression.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, doing it all in profile, like, you're never really, like, making direct contact with the mother.
Right.
So, yeah, that probably plays into it. Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
Probably did that on purpose. Like, yeah, she's always sort of askew or, you know, looking away from the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
I feel like there was only one moment that I noticed where she's looking, like, directly on, and it's when she's doing her detective work part in the second story, and they're, like, have those seedy kind of guys in the amusement park rides, and then the one guy beats the guy up and his tooth falls out and he's, you know, crying, and then she comes in and lights her cigarette, and it's just like a straight on shot of her looking at the camera.
Oh, okay.
And she looks like menacing almost. It's a weird way to first get your, you know, a full on face of the character, you know?
Yeah, well, that's sort of a turning point in the movie too, because that's like when she's like really cross-line, like so she breaks into someone's home and gets the golf club,
right?
But that's not. I mean, it's definitely illegal and, you know, immoral, but it's not like so far like beyond that. Like, she's an irredeemable character, but
right.
Like, now she's like sort of arranged like a beating on someone.
That's a good point.
And yes, now it's like she's reached like a different echelon in like what she's willing to do to like protect her son.
Yeah.
Like, now it's no longer just snooping around. It's like she's willing to compromise like the safety or of others.
Yeah.
In order to protect her son.
Yeah.
And I mean that's sort of another thing is like you were saying, like the son is like, you know, only a mother could love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another issue that like kind of keeps the audience separated. Is like, we sympathize with her because we know like what motherly love is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
But we don't feel it for the son the way that she does.
Right. That's another distancing technique, in that you can abstractly understand what she's doing and why she's acting this way, but you don't feel the same way yourself for him specifically.
Yeah, because, I mean, to the audience, like, he just kind of seems like a prick teenager.
Sort of dopey.
He's really dopey. I mean, just right at the beginning when they, like, chase down the Mercedes, and his, you know, D-bag friend, like, kicks the window on the Mercedes, and then he tries and fails. Once they get caught, like, the friend pins it on him, and he's just like, oh, I did. Like,
why would I do that?
Yeah, like, he doesn't even remember that he didn't do it.
Right.
To some comic effect later.
Yeah, he's dopey, but he also plays a role in the movement of the plot in the way that, with his forgetting, remembering.
Okay.
And it's like, it's necessary for him to be forgetful for things to move, move forward, I think. So it's also a device in a way, which I guess doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't have this as in a full thought.
Going back to like her covering her face, like while dancing, you kind of see her like turning a blind eye to some of his shitty behavior throughout the movie. Like, there's a scene where he's peeing on the street,
right,
and she's feeding him soup,
right.
Like, it doesn't even bother her that he's just going into town on the street.
She even
like,
covers it up afterwards for him.
She like rubs it out.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets mad that, like... So, like, the son's got a temper. Like, he's called retard. And I'm directly quoting the film a couple times, and that always triggers
whenever
his temper.
It does, he flips out, yeah.
And when the mother gets mad at him, she gets mad at him for having a bad memory, not for his temper.
That's true.
Like, she gets mad at, like, you know, him not being able to remember, but she doesn't actually care about, like, his actions so much. Like, he gets pinned for kicking in the rearview mirror of the Mercedes, and she's mad that it costs so much to fix, but she doesn't actually reprimand him for damaging the car.
She looks the other way, if you will. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, what do you think the story behind the English words during the sex scene was?
But they were saying them in Korean, weren't they?
No.
Oh, I guess...
They were saying, like, tiramisu, armadillo.
Maybe they just feel that it's exotic. And,
See, I was thinking, like, maybe... you know how, like, in America, to like, make sure that, like, the show's not over too quickly, you're supposed to, like, think of baseball or cold showers or Margaret Thatcher? Maybe that, like, in Korea, practicing English during sex is, like, a way to, like, not come too quickly.
Sure, yeah, why not?
So, or, yeah.
Keep you thinking about other things.
Yeah.
They start off with food, and then they move into more random.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't Korean. Maybe it was just I was reading the subtitles and, like, my mind just translated.
I thought they were just saying it really funny, like, but I don't know.
But yeah, I was like, why are they doing that? I don't know. I think because tiramisu is probably going to be the same in Korean as it is in English.
Likely. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Our Korean listenership, please let us know if tiramisu is different in Korea.
Yes, if anybody does, please. So for most of the film, I'd say like a good, I don't know, 80% of it, maybe even more. She's wearing red. She's like in red. She's the only character in red for most of the movie and most of the scenes. There's a couple exceptions. But I think that's sort of his way of saying, because this movie is full of red herrings, that Mother herself is a red herring.
Okay.
But we can't help but go along and follow her.
Okay.
Even though she's wrong. She's like, because, you know, this whole time she's trying to prove that her son didn't do it.
Yeah.
And we're believing that that's what is the truth, you know, because we want to go along with it. But it turns out that, like, oh, yeah, he totally did.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unclear as to whether or not he actually remembers it.
Yeah.
Like, he signs the confession, but then says he doesn't do it, or didn't do it. And then when they find someone else who fesses to it, he doesn't seem guilt-ridden by it, like, or shocked.
Yeah.
Like, it's sort of, it's left ambiguous as to whether or not he actually knows that he did it or not.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he knows anything about his mother being at the junk man's place? Because he finds the needles.
Yeah.
But do you think he pieces any of that together?
I think he does. Like, that. At least that's, like, how I inferred it there at the end.
And that's kind of him looking after her?
I don't know. I think, like, he might, like, understand what happened, but I don't know if he understands, like, why it happened. So maybe, like, he didn't, like, piece it together, like, she cleaned up my mess, but, you know, he pieced it together that, like, he or she burnt down that place.
Yeah.
But I don't know, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was just one of those things that, like, I took at face value. You talking about Red, though, I was thinking about the movie and when she goes to, like, the junk guy's house.
Yeah.
And I think I was like, the director really, like, decked out the movie, and it sounds, like, weird to say, but, like, in very colorful earth tones.
Right.
Like, it's mostly, like, kind of gray, black, or dark blue, browns, and, like, not just, like, vibrant, like, browns or grays. Like, really chalky colors. And then, like, right as I was thinking this, like, she hits him with a wrench. And then she splashes herself after, like, a couple hits with, like, very bright red.
Right.
Like, the blood that hits her face is, like, not a subdued red.
Right.
But even, like, the blood that you see coming out of his head is, like, blackened
dark,
by the earth. Yeah.
And I wonder, because in that scene, now I want to go back, because she's wearing that purple dress that we see her in the very beginning. And I don't know if she's worn it before, and if that, like, basically that's his way of, you know, projecting that she's no longer the red herring, she's going to find the truth somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, like, it sort of bookends it with, like, this, she's no longer a plot device, she's a person again, or something like that.
Yeah. I like, I really like the end scene of her on the bus. It
is, like, it looks like a mess, like, if you look at it just in passing, but there's something about, like, sitting and watching the whole scene that it's sort of just, like, a beautiful shot. Like, you can't really see... You can't even tell if you see her the whole time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I kind of interpret that as, like, she kind of disappears into the crowd and just becomes another mother, basically, because it's a parent's trip that they're going on. And so it's like, he's sort of saying, wouldn't you do this as a parent kind of thing.
Also, what a party bus! Man.
I know, that looked like so much fun.
like before, like she started dancing with them, and I was just like, the bus is driving and everyone's in the aisles dancing. Yeah. I'm like, what bus is this?
I read
and sign me up.
I read an interview with Bong Joon-ho where he said that they showed the movie, I think in New York or something, and there was a reporter from Turkey who commented on that and said, like, this happens in Turkey too. Like, it's like, wow, we don't have these first of all, these parent tours, thank you tours, whatever. I don't know. That's news to me. But then that just like, it only happens in Turkey and Korea, as far as we know of.
Two pillars of culture on the world stage.
By the way, the song that's playing that they're dancing to was top notch. Whatever it was.
So can I introduce my remakes idea?
Oh yeah. So yeah, this is a new thing we want to try out here.
So there's two things that sort of rattle around my head. We were talking about it earlier with gay films and whether or not they could be transposed to be with straight people or straight characters.
Mm-hmm.
And, with remakes, like, movies, especially nowadays, get remade all the time. Either, what would this film be like if it was an American remake?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you had to cast it with American actors and actresses?
I don't even want to think about it.
But one thing that I've always kind of liked, and there's two things that sort of stem from it, is one is a joke from 30 Rock, when Liz Lemon said that she played John Proctor in a gender-blind production of The Crucible, which the play is about the Salem witch trials. Gender's mildly important to that. She also played the young Nazi boy in Sound of Music. But the other thing is, I listened to an interview with Alec Baldwin once, where he was talking about, in his college days, they did a production of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but they did a gender role reversal.
Huh.
And he was playing Nurse Ratched.
Oh, wow.
And all of the inmates were played by women. And after they were done with it, they were asked to describe how, like, the gender dynamics were different
mm-hmm.
versus how it was, like, in the film, or if the film was initially a play to begin with. And how that, like, makes the story different at all just by having it be different genders.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that, like, I was kind of thinking about with this movie is, could you have it be the same movie? Could you have the same script if it was a father and a daughter?
Ooh. I don't think so.
Yeah, like, I don't think so either. I think it has to be, like, I don't even think it could be mother-daughter necessarily.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think there's something a little bit, like, about the dynamic of, like, a mother being protective over her only son,
mm-hmm.
Especially, like, an aloof son like that.
Yeah. And she also uses her kind of frail femininity to her advantage. Like,
sure.
When she's trying to get close to that girl who does the phone stuff, she's like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I'd like that on my phone. And, like, I can't imagine some old man pulling that off.
Yeah, if it was a gender role reversal, it'd almost just be like a Death Wish movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's just, even like a father-son movie, it couldn't be. Yeah, because she uses her gender to her advantage, I think, to, like, put other people's guard down. Yeah,
and there's nothing like the care of, like, the feeling of responsibility that a mother has for their child, I would say.
What does Louis C.K. say about that? He's like, the best father on his best day can, like, give his son, like, 40%.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's like, there are movies, like, in Death Wish, it's like, I think, if I remember correctly, the wife was murdered and then the daughter was raped.
Okay.
But I think the daughter survived in Death Wish, if memory serves. And then he goes on, like, a killing spree to, like, find the hoodlums that did it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that also plays into it, too, is, like, Charles Bronson was masculine, so he just goes out and shoots people, while in Mother, like, she kind of has to, like, sleuth it out.
Right.
She has to use her cunning, her vixen-like qualities.
Which is fun. It's funny how this movie doesn't start off that way, but then it turns into this, like, detective story where it's like an Angela Lansbury situation. It's like, oh, she's gonna solve this crime.
If I knew what murder was in Korean, I'd say that word followed by she wrote. She is sort of an Angela Lansbury type thing.
For a little bit there.
So in my modern American remake, Angela Lansbury is the
Aww. Yeah, actually, that seems about right.
I mean, Angela Lansbury is like 98.
Oh,
now, but,
dang.
I even think like some of our classic matrons like Maggie Smith were too old for this role.
Apparently, this actress, I didn't write her name down. She's really famous as playing mothers, impeccable mothers on Korean TV.
Oh yeah,
and so this is
Korea has a lot of television dramas.
Yeah, and apparently she's known for that. And Bong Joon-ho wrote the script with this actress in mind, and it's like a super gritty turn for her. She's like, bloody and in the mud and stuff, and that was never the thing on TV, and it revitalized her career.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah.
So yeah, I think in my modern American remake, I'll stick with Angela Lansbury, and then the son will be played by Domhnall Gleeson.
Oh, the murderer is a redhead. I see what you did there. Yeah, who would be great?
I mean, that's sort of one of the problems with like a lot of like American movies is like you have to be able to play like jilted prom dates and like sorority girls until like you get too old for that, and then you have to play the old slut.
Yeah.
There's really no in between. It's like whatever happened to Michelle Pfeiffer? She's just gone.
Yeah, she could do this role.
Yeah, she probably could. She could probably still fit into that Catwoman outfit.
Yeah, actually, I could see her playing that.
Yeah, I get a little
getting a little wild,
a little Pfeif. Yeah,
maybe like Jessica Lange, perhaps.
Yeah,
could pull this off.
Sure. And then it's easy to pick like young actors. Like there's a million young actors, but it had to be someone who looks still kind of
dopey.
Just a little doughy. So Paul Dano.
Yeah, or that guy. He was in Son of Rambo, and then he went on to do a few more things.
Son of Rambo.
Oh, God.
Oh!
He's been in a few things.
Yeah, when you said Son of Rambo, I thought it was one of the actual Rambo movies, but now I know what you're talking about. I don't know if he went on to do anything else.
Yeah, he's actually like starting. He's like an up and comer now.
Oh,
one moment. Will Poulter is his name.
Oh,
and he's been in. Oh, I don't want to tell you what I've seen him in now.
Ooh. All right. How gay and how naked was he?
Look, all right, I may as well just get this out of the way. I've been watching the Maze Runner movies.
Oh, no. I mean, those movies are just jailbait.
Oh, they're garbage. They're just terrible. It's the thing that made me like really start questioning. I watched the second one, and the whole time through, it's like so
Scorched
stupid.
Trials.
Yeah, it's just dumb.
Which sounds like stains in your underwear.
It the whole time. I mean, the thing is, it's not good. But by the end of it, I was like, I wonder what I hate more in movies: dialogue tropes or plot tropes? Because that movie had both, and it was. I guess that's the biggest thing I've taken from these. Look, I liked the Hunger Games.
Did you really?
Well, I read the books, so. And believe me, the movies are better than the books.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know.
So much shaky cam in those movies.
Especially the second and third one. But anyway, so I just decided I wanted to watch, hot young dudes running around. What's wrong with that?
Which is what Maze Runner is. Yeah,
that's about it. Did we cover everything?
I actually took very little notes on this movie because while watching it, I didn't want to look away to write notes.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to keep pausing it every time I had a note to write. So I was like, I'm watching this 3 hours before I'm recording the damn podcast. Just run it through your head. Just keep a mental list of things.
No, I guess there's not much else I wanted to say. Oh, I just, at the end of the very first scene that we were talking about earlier, that great one with the car accident.
Yeah.
Just the sound design while she's chopping
Mm-hmm.
is really good. And I noticed the sound design is pretty good throughout the movie, where it's like crispy and unsettling and just loud and...
Like how I like my chicken.
Crispy and unsettling?
They have a special bucket for that at KFC. Extra unsettling.
Does it like...
It's
move?
Just, I was going to say, you open the bucket and the live chicken comes out.
That's unsettling.
So, next week...
Oh, yeah.
is our 10th episode.
10!
10! The big X. For X-rated.
Hey, yeah!
So
we're gonna do something special.
We got a little surprise.
It's a double feature.
This is where you have like bells whistling.
Oh yeah, I've already been thinking about it.
Okay. I think we're gonna be doing what is to me the most logical of all double features. Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
We're gonna have a little Schumacher talking.
Yeah.
We've been kind of toying with the idea of talking about Joel Schumacher here, and we just decided let's get 2 movies and also the Batman franchise. Why not?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a while since I've seen those. Like, I see Batman Returns probably more than a normal adult should see it. Probably like once a year, once every 2 years, something like that.
I think it's superior to the first one.
Yeah, definitely. It's also so adult. That movie is so adult.
Yeah.
He, like, makes all these sexual innuendo. Like, he's gonna show Jan Hooks his French flipper trick.
Go on.
Oh, I was, like, it's that, for, like, think of a major superhero sequel today. So you got your Thor 2s, your Amazing Spider-Man 2s, your Iron Man 2s. How sexual are those movies?
Yeah,
do any of them involve women in, like, very obvious S&M gear? Like, Catwoman is a femdom.
It was the 90s. What was that movie rated? Now I'm curious.
PG-13, I would imagine.
Yeah, that sounds right, but man.
But it's like, can you imagine a movie studio bankrolling like this cosplaying fetishist film and unleashing it to an eager public? Like, it was a hotly anticipated movie.
Yeah, and I think it was a huge success. Wow, it was PG-13.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, if you count the number of like adult jokes. I saw that movie in theaters. The movie came out like 92, 93?
91 it says there.
Oh, 91? So I was 6.
When you saw it?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Clear. Like, your parents are
now
not worried about
we
the
know
rating.
why I'm like the way I am. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy uber sexual.
Huh, yeah.
And it's not even just like regular sexual. It's like
she like licks his
sexual.
face and stuff. Wow, I forgot. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen it in a while, but now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, like it's like deviant, perverted sexuality. It's just Tim Burton is like, this is what I like, here we go.
Maybe, I mean, he was pretty successful at that point, right? So
yeah, that was like the height of his success.
They must have been like...
It was also like the height of like his creative powers. Like, he was making good movies at that time.
Oh, you're right, 92, I'm sorry, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's like after Edward Scissorhands, which was 91, I think.
Okay.
91.
Yeah.
Whoa. I don't know, I'm not sure about that now.
But it's like, in that time period, you got Batman Returns, you got Edward Scissorhands, you got Ed Wood, which is also a great movie.
Yeah.
Like, he was like churning them out, and like, they were quality films.
Yeah.
And Joel Schumacher got the ball.
Yeah, we need to look into... that was something I wanted to mention when we did the Exorcist movie, but I didn't get around to it, was that when Tim Burton was attached to the third Batman movie, they were going to have the Scarecrow be a villain, and Brad Dourif was going to play the Scarecrow.
That would have been so good.
I know. Can you imagine?
That would have been so good. But yeah, Joel Schumacher, I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
There were a couple, I was surprised to see that he directed in those like early 90s after the Lost Boys fame, that I was like, oh, that's actually a big deal.
Yeah, some of, like, he seems to veer between, like, sort of attempting critically acclaimed movies.
That's kind of you.
And then just, like, crazy schlock.
Yeah.
Like, Time to Kill is, like, John Grisham courtroom drama.
Right, okay, yeah, that's one. Oh, and he did, like, Lorenzo's Oil. No, the Client.
The Client, yeah.
Which was, like...
Yeah, that was, like, another John Grisham adaptation.
Oh, was it?
I think so.
And I remember that being a decent movie.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Although I was a child then.
Time to Kill has Samuel L. Jackson saying, yes, I think they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. Like, that's where that's from.
Ooh.
So.
All right. I mean, he's obviously a topic we can talk about.
Yeah.
For a long period of time.
I'm not watching all these movies for fun. Like, this is work. We're gonna go.
We're doing this for you, audience.
I mean, granted, we'll take copious notes on the 2 Batman movies, but we will be touching upon other Schumacher gems.
Indeed.
Because, yeah, boy, his movies are not good. But the nice thing about, like, him being gay is, like, he does kind of, like, cram his movies full of, like, pretty boys.
That's true.
So
I don't want to get... I mean, here's a preview for you. Batman Forever contributed to my sexual awakening.
Really? Oh, my God. To be continued?
To be continued! Let's, do you want to plug our junk and close this thing out?
We do need to do some junk plugging. We haven't done that in a while.
No. Well, we're on Twitter at X-Rated Movies.
And we're on Facebook at Rated X Movies.
And we also have an email, which I keep forgetting to say.
Which is x.rated.movies@gmail.com.
There you go.
But, yeah, so follow us, like us. It'll be nice.
Next week we have a...
Double feature.
So, that should be fun.
Yeah. We're going to camp it up.
And... Bye. Bye.
Bye.